Ever dated someone who felt perfect at first, but left you drained, confused, or anxious later? Yeah, you didn't imagine that. It starts off amazing, texting nonstop, butterflies every time they call, late night talks that make you feel like you've known them forever. But then, little things start feeling off. They cancel plans last minute. They get weirdly defensive when you ask a simple question. Or they joke about your insecurities and call it just teasing. But you brush it off because, well, you really like them? Sound familiar? Today I want to talk to you like a best friend would, honestly and with zero judgment, about how to spot red flags early in dating. Because the truth is, a lot of us see them. We just don't want to admit it. We ignore them because we're hopeful, or we don't want to seem dramatic, or we're just so into the person that we start making excuses for behavior that, honestly, should have sent us running. But here's the thing. Red flags don't usually come waving in your face on day one. They show up subtly, in small moments, and if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake them for quirks or even chemistry. So, let's talk about what to actually look out for before you get too emotionally invested. Because dating should feel safe, exciting, and mutual, not confusing or draining. Okay, let's start with one of the most overlooked signs: how they talk about their exes. I'm not saying you need to dig for their entire dating history on the first date, but when it does come up, listen carefully. Do they describe all their exes as crazy? Do they make it sound like they were always the victim, never at fault? That's a red flag. Not because people don't have bad breakups, obviously they do, but because someone who always blames their exes usually hasn't done the work to reflect on their part in things. And if they haven't learned anything from their past, guess what? They're gonna bring the same energy into this relationship. And then there's consistency. This one sounds simple, but it's huge. In the beginning, people usually put their best foot forward. They say the right things, they're super attentive. But what happens after a few weeks? Are they still showing up? Or are they suddenly too busy, too vague, too hard to reach? If someone is hot and cold, gives you mixed signals, or makes you feel like you're always the one trying to connect, that's not a vibe. That's emotional whiplash, and you deserve better than that. I once dated someone who would text me all day one week and then completely ghost for 2 days the next. No explanation. And every time I brought it up, they'd say I was being too sensitive or overreacting. That's a classic red flag. Not just the inconsistency, but the way they flip the script to make me question my own reaction. If someone's making you feel like your feelings are a problem instead of trying to understand them, big waving red flag. And you know what's wild? Sometimes the biggest red flags show up in how we feel around them. Like, maybe you're not even sure why you feel anxious after hanging out with them, but you do. Or you catch yourself constantly overthinking your texts. Did I sound needy? Was that joke too much? Should I wait a few hours before replying so I don't seem too eager? That's not normal. That's your nervous system quietly screaming, something's off. The right person won't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells just to be liked. You should feel like you can exhale around them, not like you're auditioning every day. I remember going out with this guy who, on the surface, seemed perfect, charming, successful, said all the right things. But every time we talked, I felt like I had to perform. Like if I said the wrong thing, I'd be judged or brushed off. He would constantly humble brag, interrupt my stories to make them about him, and when I shared something vulnerable, he'd give these cold, logical responses, like a TED Talk instead of empathy. And eventually I realized I wasn't actually being seen, just tolerated. That's not connection. That's control dressed up in confidence. Another big one, watch how they handle boundaries. If someone pushes past what you've clearly said you're comfortable with, whether that's physical, emotional, or even something simple like texting too late at night, they're showing you they value their desires over your comfort. That might not sound dramatic, but trust me, respect shows up in the little things. If you say, "Hey, I'm not ready for that," or "I need some space tonight," and they guilt trip you or try to convince you otherwise, that's not romance. That's manipulation. You don't owe anyone access to your time, your body, or your energy just because they're interested. And let's talk about jealousy, because this one gets romanticized way too much. You ever hear someone say, "He just gets jealous because he really likes me"? No, jealousy isn't love. It's insecurity in a leather jacket. A little jealousy here and there can be normal, sure, we're all human. But if they start questioning who you're texting, or get mad when you hang out with friends, or need constant reassurance that you're only theirs, that's a massive warning sign. That's not about you being trustworthy. It's about them needing control. and it only gets worse over time. One of my close friends dated a guy like that. At first, it seemed kind of flattering. He wanted to know where she was, who she was with, always checking in. But within a couple months, it turned into him accusing her of lying if she took too long to respond, telling her to unfollow certain people, even showing up to places uninvited just to surprise her. It escalated fast, and it was hard for her to leave because he wasn't mean at first. He was just intense. But intensity without respect? That's just danger wrapped in charm. And honestly, sometimes the red flag isn't even what they do. It's what they don't do. They don't ask questions about your life. They don't remember things you've told them. They don't make any effort to integrate into your world or show up for you when it matters. If someone's only present when it's convenient for them or when it benefits them, that's not a partner. That's a spectator in your life. You deserve someone who's all in, not just when it's easy, but when it counts. Someone who listens when you speak, respects your no without pushing, and makes you feel more yourself, not less. The earlier you start looking for these patterns, the easier it becomes to filter out what's real from what's just potential. And trust me, potential will waste your time if you're not careful. So here's the truth, and I want you to really let this sink in. You're allowed to walk away from something that doesn't feel right, even if it's early, even if nothing technically bad has happened, even if everyone else thinks it looks perfect from the outside. You don't need a dramatic reason to honor your gut. If your peace is being disrupted, that's reason enough. Dating isn't about proving you're worthy of someone's love. It's about discovering whether they're worthy of yours. And red flags? They're not just warning signs about the other person. They're clues about what you've learned to tolerate. When you start noticing them and actually choosing to listen, you begin shifting out of old patterns and stepping into the kind of love that feels healthy, grounded, and mutual. And look, I get it. It's hard sometimes. When you're lonely or hopeful or you've already imagined the future, it's tempting to ignore the cracks and focus on the potential. But real connection doesn't come from forcing something to work. It comes from being honest about what doesn't. And the earlier you get in the habit of asking yourself, does this feel good? Does this feel true? The faster you'll recognize when someone just isn't it. You don't need to become a detective or interrogate everyone you meet. Just pay attention. How do you feel after talking to them? Do their actions match their words? Are they consistent, kind, respectful? That's really all it takes. Watching, listening, and most importantly, trusting yourself. You already have the tools. You just need to believe in them. So, if you're dating right now, or about to jump back in, take this with you like a little shield of self-worth. You're not being picky. You're protecting your peace. You're not too much. You're just asking for what's right. And that's not only okay, it's powerful. If this video helped you feel a little more clear or confident, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And if you've ever spotted a red flag and walked away from it, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. We're all learning together, and your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. All right, friend, until next time, stay smart, stay grounded, and remember, the right one won't make you question your worth, ever.